feeling of panic that sets in when you visit London for the first time? It usually happens about 20 minutes after you land.
Is it the jet lag? Or the realization that coffee costs, what, £5?
It's the language gap. You've spent years learning English, or, you grew up speaking it in America or wherever. You've watched the movies, you think, I speak English, they speak English, this will be easy.
And then you step off the plane.
Exactly. You get in a black cab, or you walk into a busy pub to order a drink and someone speaks to you. And it is not the English you learned. It's loud, it's incredibly fast, and it sounds like they've surgically removed half the consonants from the alphabet.
It's a completely different acoustic landscape. You're expecting, I don't know, the Queen, right?
Yeah.
Distinct and crisp. But you get the street, and the street sounds very, very different.
So that is exactly what we are decoding today. We aren't just looking at a list of slang words to memorize, though we do have some great ones. We are doing a deep dive into the physics of the London sound. We're going to look at how the tongue, the lips, and the throat actually move to create that distinct rhythm.
We're stripping the engine down to see how it runs. And for this one, we've got a really fascinating stack of sources. We have a standard travel blog post, Common English Phrases in London, which gives us the raw vocabulary. But we're layering that over to pretty heavy-hitting linguistic texts, a technical guide on estuary English, and a dense academic paper on traditional Cockney.
So we are going to nerdy extremes just to explain why water becomes wart.
Precisely. And the mission for this deep dive is actually a simulation. By the end of this conversation, we want to take a polite, grammatically perfect written sentence and, by applying the physical rules from these sources, transform it into that aggressive, rhythmic sound of modern London.
I love that. We're building an accent from scratch. Okay, but before we start dropping letters and confusing everyone, we need to map the territory. We hear these terms thrown around all the time: Cockney, RP, estuary. To an outsider, they all just sound British. What are we actually dealing with?
It helps to visualize it as a spectrum. On one end, you have received pronunciation, or RP.
The villain voice in every action movie.
Usually, yes. Or the news anchor. Think of RP as the textbook baseline. The sources describe it as having no twang. It's smooth, it's melodious, and historically, it doesn't really belong to a region. It belongs to a social class. It's the sound of authority.
Okay, so that's the top of the spectrum. What's at the bottom?
Traditional Cockney. This is the classic working-class dialect of the East End. The sources describe it as bright and brassy.
And that's the one with the geography rule, right? The bells.
That's the legend, yeah, and it holds up historically. To be a true Cockney, you had to be born within the sound of the bells of St. Mary-le-Bow Church. But, and this is the crucial part for anyone visiting today, Cockney has evolved. It's spread out. And it's mixed with RP to create the third player, which is what you'll mostly hear today. Estuary English.
The middle ground.
Exactly. It's called estuary because it's spread along the banks of the Thames estuary. The source describes it as dark, throaty, and nasal. It feels physically further back in the throat than most American accents. But here's the stat from the research that really puts that feeling of panic you mentioned into perspective.
Okay, hit me with it. Why does it feel so overwhelming?
It's the velocity. The linguistic analysis and the source notes that estuary speakers hit about 110 words per minute.
110. That sounds fast, but I need a comparison. What am I speaking right now?
Well, the average American English speaker clocks in at about 90 words per minute.
Wow. So that's a 20% increase.
Roughly, yeah. And that is massive in a casual conversation. The source explicitly calls it an aggressive urban dialect. It evolved to keep up with the pace of a massive, crowded city. So when you feel overwhelmed listening to a Londoner, don't feel bad. It's not just you. They're physically throwing more data at you at a higher speed than your brain is calibrated for.
That explains so much. Feels like a rapid-fire assault of syllables. Okay, so if the goal is speed, if I need to get to 110 words per minute to survive, I can't afford to pronounce every single letter. Something has to give.
Efficiency is the name of the game. You have to cut corners. And that brings us to the first mechanical rule in our sources, and probably the most famous one, the glottal stop.
The classic. This is the stereotype of dropping your T's, like little bee of luck.
It is the stereotype, but the mechanics are a bit more complex than just dropping a letter. You aren't just skipping the sound, you're replacing it with a physical action. The estuary source explains that you are abruptly blocking the airflow in your vocal cords, your glottis.
So for everyone listening, let's try to physicalize this. If you say the word uh-oh,
right, uh-oh,
that little catch in your throat, the hard stop between the and the o.
Exactly. That catch is the glottal stop. Now imagine doing that every time you see a T at the end of a word or between vowels.
So get out because
notes.
it's so choppy, percussive.
It's a rhythmic hiccup. Now, the sources make a really interesting distinction here. The estuary text mentions something called the splashy T.
The splashy T, that sounds wet.
It sounds a bit messy. It's a variant in estuary that's a bit closer to the standard T, maybe a little slushy, not a full hard stop. But the pure glottal stop, that leans heavily toward traditional Cockney. And here's where the traditional Cockney paper just blew my mind. In broad Cockney, the glottal stop acts like a virus. It spreads beyond the T.
It jumps to other letters.
It does. It can replace P and K, too.
Wait, really? P and K? I can't even picture that. How do you glottal a P?
So the paper gives the example of the word paper. In standard English, you pop your lips for that second P, paper.
Right.
Paper.
In broad Cockney, that second P gets glottaled. So it sounds like pay, pay. That barely sounds like a word.
Or a name like Wilkins. The K drops out. It becomes Willins.
Willins. Okay, I see the pattern. It's about not closing the mouth.
Correct. The paper notes this usually happens when the next syllable is unstressed. It's purely about conserving energy. Why close your lips for a P or lift your tongue for a K if you can just close your throat for a split second and keep moving?
It's lazy, but it's a highly calculated lazy, streamlined.
It's high-speed aerodynamics for speech. If you stop to pop a P, you lose momentum.
Okay, so we're swallowing our T's, P's, and K's to keep the speed up. But there's another sound that I feel defines that London sound even more than the glottal stop. It's the L. When I hear a Londoner say milk or bottle, I swear there is no L in there.
You are hearing correctly. This is the second big rule, L vocalization. The source material gets quite technical here about mouth shapes, but it's fascinating if you try it yourself.
Walk us through the physics.
So, usually when you say an L at the end of a word standard English, your tongue tip touches the roof of your mouth, right behind your teeth. Go on, try saying fall. Feel your tongue go up at the end.
Fall. Yep. Tongue hits the roof.
In London accents, specifically when an L appears after a vowel, that tongue movement is just deleted. It stops. Instead, the lips round forward as if they're going to make a W sound, but they don't quite release it.
So bottle becomes and fall, fall. It's like the L turns into a vowel.
Exactly. It's called the dark L in the source, but physically it effectively becomes a W or U sound, and this creates some incredible confusion. The academic paper points out that because of this, 3 distinct words end up sounding exactly the same.
Which ones?
Pool, like a swimming pool. Pull a rope, and the name Paul.
No way. Pool, pull, and Paul.
In broad Cockney, because you aren't lifting the tongue for the L and you're rounding the lips, they all become something like paw or poo.
So if I said, hey, Paul, pull Paul out of the pool.
It would sound like a chant. Hey, paw, paw, paw. Ah, of the paw.
That is nearly unintelligible.
But again, efficient. The tongue never has to lift. It just stays down, and the lips do the work. And if you connect this back to our travel blog source, look at the standard greeting, you all right.
Oh, right. If you apply the rule, the L in all right turns into a W.
So it becomes, you all right. It flows much faster than you all right.
But all right, yeah, that slides right off the tongue. Okay, so we have glottal stops acting as speed bumps, and we have L's turning into W's. But the thing that really trips me up, and I think trips up most visitors, is the vowels. It feels like every vowel has played musical chairs.
That is a great analogy. The traditional Cockney paper dives deep into this, what they call the great vowel shift. It's extremely complex, but let's look at the 2 changes that will actually help you understand people. The source calls it the price-mouth crossover.
Sounds like a spy thriller. The price-mouth crossover.
It's all about how the jaw and lips move. So take words that have the mouth vowel sound. So house, mouse, brown, cow. In Cockney, that sound shifts way forward in the mouth. It sounds like they start with an A sound, like in cat.
So mouth becomes
may, ew. And notice the pith becomes an F there too, which is another common shift. But yeah, focus on the vowel. May.
ew.
It sounds very nasal.
And house becomes hayus.
Hayus. Okay. And what about the price words?
So the price words like time, right? Like they retract back. Time sounds almost like time, but with the lips unrounded.
So I'm going to my house becomes...
Hayus.
It completely changes the flavor of the sentence.
And then you have the goat split, the O sound. In standard English, boat is a round, open O. In London, it starts much lower in the mouth. It sounds like boat.
Boat, get about.
You're getting it. Now, there's one more vowel quirk mentioned in the Estuary source that you will hear constantly. It's practically the signature of modern British youth. It's called Yod coalescence?
Yod coalescence. That sounds medical. It sounds scary, but it's just what happens to the Tuesday sound. In America, you might say Tuesday. In RP, the textbook way, it's Tuesday, a distinct T and Y. But in Estuary and Cockney, that T and Y sound crash together and merge into a C.
So it becomes Tuesday.
Tuesday. And Duke becomes Juke.
Tuesday. I hear that all the time. See you next Tuesday.
It's everywhere, even on the BBC now. Now, we have to address the elephant in the room. We've talked about dropping T's, P's, and K's, but what about the H?
The classic H dropping.
Harry Power.
Right. The traditional Cockney paper confirms this is a staple. Hat becomes that. Head becomes ed. But, and this is crucial for the social context, the source notes that this is highly stigmatized.
People look down on it.
They do. Unlike the glottal stop, which is becoming kind of cool and modern, dropping your H's is still seen as uneducated by some. And because of that stigma, the source mentions a phenomenon called hypercorrection.
What's that?
It's when speakers are so afraid of being judged for dropping an H that they panic and add one where it doesn't belong. Oh no. Like adding an H to Apple?
Exactly. The paper gives the tragic example of someone trying to sound fancy and saying they are hake ignorant.
Ignorant. That is painful.
It shows the social pressure behind these accents. It's not just sounds, it's class warfare in your mouth. You want to sound local, but not too local.
That is fascinating. Okay, so we've got the mechanics down, glottal stops, WLs, vowel shifts. Now we need the words. Let's look at the Common English Phrases blog post. Because even if you pronounce it right, you need to know what to say.
We have to talk about rhyming slang. It's the most famous part of Cockney, but people often misunderstand how it works. The blog explains the mechanism really well. You take a phrase that rhymes, but then, and this is the trick, you often drop the rhyming part.
This is what makes it a secret code. Give us an example.
Okay, take the word look. The rhyme is butcher's hook.
Butcher's hook rhymes with look. Simple enough.
But you don't say, have a butcher's hook at this. You just say, have a butcher's.
Let me have a butcher's at that. If you don't know the rhyme, the word butcher's makes absolutely no sense. You'd think they were talking about meat.
That's the point. It was originally designed to exclude outsiders, like the police. Here's another one from the list that people use constantly without even realizing it. Cobblers.
I've heard this. What a load of cobblers. It means nonsense, right? Rubbish.
It does. But do you know the rhyme?
No idea. Something about shoes.
Cobbler's awls.
I like an awl.
It's a sharp tool for punching holes in leather. But cobbler's awls rhymes with balls.
Oh, so what a load of cobblers means what a load of.
Exactly. But because you've dropped the rhyme, it becomes polite enough to say on daytime television. It's a way of swearing without technically swearing.
That is brilliant. Sanitized profanity. What about loaf? I hear use your loaf.
Loaf of bread equals head. Use your loaf.
I used that one and I didn't even know what was rhyming slang. It just sounds like a fun idiom.
It seeps into the language. The blog also lists some general slang that isn't rhyming but is essential. Donkey's ears.
Meaning a long time.
Minted.
Being rich. He's absolutely minted.
Right. And throw a spanner in the works for causing problems.
I saw Bob's your uncle on the list too. I feel like that one is a stereotype.
Well, Bob's your uncle basically means, and there you have it, or ta-da. But the source does note that it's mostly used by older people now. It shows the age gaps in the dialect. You probably won't hear a teenager in East London saying Bob's your uncle, unironically.
They'd probably say you sweet, which is another greeting listed.
Right. You sweet implies, are you good? Is everything okay?
Okay, I think we're ready. We have the phonetics, the mechanics, the vocab. It is time for the simulation.
Let's do it.
The goal is to take a polite sentence from our source article and translate it into full, rapid-fire London speech using every rule we've discussed. Here's the sentence. Get to the city and start learning.
Get to the city and start learning. Okay. Very stiff. Very RP. Let's attack it with the Estuary and Cockney rules.
Step 1.
Get.
We have a T at the end. That's a hard glottal stop, so it becomes gia.
Yeah. Step 2. City. The T is in the middle here. In Estuary, that's becoming a glottal stop or a very quick tap.
See? Step 3.
And we have what they call reduction. The A gets reduced and we lose the D. It just becomes ding.
And step 4. Learning.
The traditional Cockney paper is clear on this. G dropping on the ing, it's learning.
So put it together slowly. Get to the city and start learning becomes.
Get to the city and start learning.
Get to the city and start learning. It's getting there.
But remember the key stat. Speed. You need to glue it all together. It's not 4 words, it's one sound.
Okay. Get at the shin star learning.
Faster. Aggressive.
Get at the shin star learning.
That's it. It sounds rhythmic. It sounds like a drum beat. And if we want to make it truly authentic to the East End, the source on Cockney mentions 2 grammatical quirks we should add to finish the job.
What are they?
First, the universal tag question, in it,
From, isn't it?
but used for everything. And second, double negatives. I ain't seen nothing.
So our sentence could be, you get at the shin star learning in it.
Perfect. You sound like you belong on the tube during rush hour. You sound like you're late for something and you're not happy about it.
I honestly feel tougher just saying it. It changes your posture. You lean forward.
And that's a great point to start wrapping up on. When you look at all these rules, glottal stops, L vocalization, the speed, it's all about efficiency, yes. It's about getting the message out as fast as possible in a crowded, noisy environment.
It's not broken English, it's streamlined English.
Exactly, but there is a twist in the tale. The traditional Cockney paper raises a really important point about the future of this sound. Traditional Cockney, the one with the specific mouth vowels and the heavy H dropping, is actually shrinking geographically.
It's disappearing.
It's moving. As East London gentrifies and becomes more expensive, the traditional working class is moving out to Essex. So the Cockney sound is physically leaving London, but the estuary sounds, the glottal stops, the vocalized Ls, those are spreading. They are becoming the standard sound of the entire southeast of England.
So the London sound is basically eating the surrounding areas.
In a way, yes. Which leads to something fascinating the expert mentions called Mockney.
Mockney.
Like mock Cockney.
Yes. You see famous actors, singers, people from middle-class backgrounds or even aristocracy intentionally adopting these rougher sounds. They use the glottal stops. They say Tuesday.
Why would they do that if it was stigmatized? If H dropping is uneducated, why fake it?
That's the provocative thought for the day. There's something called covert prestige. The correct RP accent can sound stiff, distant, maybe even a bit stuck up. The street accent sounds tough, relatable, real.
So being cool is more important than being grammatically correct.
In the modern world, maybe it is. It begs the question, does this social cred of sounding like you're from the streets outweigh the textbook correctness of the Queen's English?
That is a question I'll be thinking about next time I try to order a buo or.
Just don't forget to say cheers.
Cheers, mate. And thank you for listening to The Deep Dive.